Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Transient Thoughts Podcast. If you are listening for the first time, then please head on over to iTunes and download our other episodes. You don't have an iTunes account? Well, that's okay. Then head on over to our hosting page at transientthoughtspodcast.libsyn.com. That's Libsyn. No matter where you listen to us at, please remember to always rate and comment our show. Also, you can find us on Twitter at podcast_TT or our Facebook page. Also, remember to listen live on Mixlr.com, MIXLR. If you'd like to contact us directly, then feel free to email us at transientthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. Transient Thoughts Podcast.
Hey, what's up, people? Another week of Transient Thoughts. My voice might still sound a little scratchy. I'm still feeling a little sick. This is Mike Cook, by the way, one of the co-hosts of Transient Thoughts. Got James in the house.
What's up, everybody?
And we have two special guests here today. Let's start off with Mike Porter. Mike Porter, he's doing work via University of Florida for the Library of Congress, the Oral History Project for Veterans. He goes around, he interviews veterans in the state of Florida, get down their oral testament to what they went through, and then it's stored in the Library of Congress for hundreds of years, you know, so people in the future can look back and hear actual relatives' firsthand experience on the war. Mike, you want to say something?
Well, thanks. My last name is spelled Parker.
Yeah.
I'm always getting confused with the other Michael Porter.
I'm sorry, man.
No.
Wow, screwed that one up.
Hey, guys. I moved up to the Villages, Florida. It's a over 55 age retirement community. And while I was a retired federal agent with the Department of Defense, and after 9/11, I was supervised the air marshals down in Miami. And I got involved when I was reading the newspaper about the Honor Flight. Honor Flight is a program that brings World War II veterans. They fly them up to D.C. for the day. And I was background is Department of Defense, military, so I decided I wanted to get involved in that. And my wife was a nurse, so she got involved in it. One day I went out looking for World War II veterans to get them involved in the Honor Flight. And so I went up to Gainesville and was invited to speak to a group of veterans called the Iwo Threesome. The Iwo Threesome.
Ewok? Like
Iwo Jima.
Oh, okay.
Iwo,
Gotcha.
The Iwo Threesome. And there were three guys who were in the Battle of Iwo Jima, and they all survived. Some of them got injured. But there two had passed away, and there was one left. And I went and told them about the about Honor Flight.
Right.
And in the crowd, there was a lady there by the name of Ann from the University of Florida, and she was looking to interview World War II veterans for the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress. And one thing led to another. I said, I have hundreds of World War II veterans in the Villages, and I would love to get involved in this. And so one thing led to another. And I was the only individual at the time, this was 2 years ago, to start interviewing World War II veterans in the Villages and supplying the information and the recordings to the University of Florida. University of Florida then would take those recordings and put together a package and send it into the Library of Congress, where it stays forever.
Such an awesome idea.
Yeah, it is, because I tell the veterans the reason to do this is, number one, you have to tell your story.
Right.
Because when you're gone, people are going to come up and say, no, that's not how it was. This is how it was.
Yep.
And you need to record that for history. And then another thing is the way I got them to kind of like ease up and tell their stories. I would tell them, I said, look, somewhere in the future, your great-great-great-great-grandson or granddaughter is going to find out that their great-great-great-great-grandfather was in World War II.
Right.
And they're going to have to do a page or something, and they're going to be able to, God knows what they're going to have in the future, but they're going to be able to click on there at the Library of Congress and actually listen to their great-great-great-great-grandfather tell his story.
That's what's so powerful about it.
It is. It's very powerful, and some of these interviews get so emotional.
Right.
Because these guys revert back to, I get them back thinking what was going on. I go from their when they were born to their very first memory of their life, and I record that, and all the way up through the war, and then I generally tell what happens after that. You know, how they what they did after the war, and then how they got to the Villages, and that's about it. It lasts about an hour,
Right.
hour to 2 hours.
Yeah, but it's good. It gets them talking and gets them open, and you personally get a firsthand like experience almost through them of what World War II is like, and then it's recorded and stored for, generations to come.
I could tell your listeners, you can watch TV, you can watch John Wayne, and that's what I grew up. I grew up on John Wayne, and John Wayne told me the stories of World War II. I talk to the real John Waynes.
Right.
That's what this is all about, listening to the real John Waynes. If you want to watch John Wayne on TV, fine. But if you want to listen to the real John Waynes who actually went through it, go to the University of Florida, go to the Library of Congress, you click on it, and you listen to these guys talk.
And the one issue is that as years go by, more and more World War II vets, they're passing, or they're coming down with things like dementia or Alzheimer's, where they're not even able to accurately share their story anymore. So it's like you're in a race with time, and and I can imagine there's got to be plenty of World War II vets in the villages. And you as one, do you have help? Do you have support, like people that can help you get to all these veterans in time?
2 years ago when I started, it was just me. Okay. And I enjoyed doing that because that's all I did in my life was interview people.
Right.
But this is different. It's interviewing heroes.
Right.
People
true.
who saved this country. And being able to hear their stories. I go out to their homes. I don't meet them somewhere. I go out to their homes. It's at their homes where they have the albums. Mm-hmm. It's where they have their paraphernalia that they brought home from the war, or they have stories. I've been out to houses where guys have had bayonets or samurai swords, actual samurai swords that they took off a dead Japanese soldier. On
the Japanese were still using samurai swords?
There was a samurai sword. God. Matter of fact, I brought a picture of one.
They didn't stand a chance.
No. Matter of fact, the guy, the veteran who told this story, he actually shot the Japanese on Okinawa, and he shot him as he was charging him. The Japanese was charging him with a samurai sword. He was out of ammunition, so he just got up, just like in the movies.
Okay, all right.
And
at least he had ammunition. It wasn't. They didn't put him on the battlefield with just a sword.
No.
Never bring a knife to a
Exactly.
Yeah. So another way I get these veterans to open up is there's an old saying that you die twice. You die once when your body dies.
Right.
And you die the second time when the last person on earth speaks your name.
Whew, that's a depressing fact.
Isn't that heavy?
But it's heavy. Yeah.
However, but if I get you, the veteran, in here and get them recorded into the Library of Congress, people are going to be listening to their names and saying their names forever.
Right.
They won't be forgotten.
Yes, that's very true.
Yeah.
It's very true. I'll tell you what. Do you want to do the honors of introducing your guest or our guest? Irving?
I've interviewed many World War II veterans here.
Right.
Let me just tell your listeners, I've had B-17 pilots, B-25, B-24 pilots. I actually have a B-24 pilot, but that's about 30 minutes from here, who lives on a farm, and in the back of his farm has a grass runway, and he actually owns a 1941, what they call a BT-13. It's a basic trainer 13. At 91 years old, 92 in January 29th, he
happy early birthday.
Still flies.
Wow.
Yes, he is in that good a shape. And out of all the veterans, all of these heroes that I've interviewed in and around the village area, I have my favorites.
Right.
Okay. You always have your favorites, just like your kids. You always got one.
Yeah, definitely.
And by the way, just a little small shout out. I found out this morning that my son Michael Jr. and his wife are going to have a baby, and it's going to be a baby girl.
Congratulations!
Congratulations,
Mike.
Michael and Maria. Congratulations.
Yes.
It's like I said, I had my favorites, and Irving Locker. I interviewed several months ago, and he was. I went to his house, and he had so many items that I was over there for hours. I'm usually there an hour or two. I think I was at his house 3 to 4 hours. It seems. And being an agent, through my career, I shot every weapon that you can think of.
Right.
he had a weapon in his house that he got from World War II that I had always heard about and I'd never touched. He had it. I was able to touch it, look at it, feel it, and it was like going back 70 years and being in World War II, and we'll talk about that later. So I decided, to come out here not just to listen to me, but to listen to an actual hero who represents the other heroes. And I chose the hero Irving Locker.
Right.
He's sitting right next to me, and he has so many good stories. I just love sitting back and listening to the real John Wayne. So I'll introduce John Wayne.
Hey, Irving.
Well, Mr. Irving, I'm so excited that you could be here with us today. I cannot wait to dive into all the stories that you have and really be taken back. And I'm not going to talk a whole lot because I want you to talk until you are done talking. You can't talk anymore.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that. And talking about John Wayne, he's my hero as well, except that he's a lot taller than I am. I'm about 5'2" right now. I used to be 5'6", but I'm about 5'2" right now, and don't look anything like John Wayne.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking. Your nickname's what? Little giant. What is it?
Giant of a little man.
Giant of a little man, and how fitting.
Well, that's what they called me in the war, so that's how I came away with it.
You know what? I think you have a tactical advantage being small during war because it makes for less of a target,
Well, it saved my life. It really did. See, I stood back. Normally, I would stand up and show you, but I stood in back of it. They want to know how come I went through 5 major battles and didn't get wounded. And I pick a big guy in the audience and says, I stood behind a guy like this. They didn't even know I was there. I could get him to spread his legs. I could shoot my rifle right through it and not worry about it. But basically, it saved my life being little, and especially digging a foxhole. I lived in the field. We had to live in the field. And we had to dig a foxhole every night. And I'll get to that as to why. But basically, we dug a foxhole. And believe me, being little, I was asleep an hour before big guys could get their tush into that hole. Everybody wanted to be little at that time, and that's how it started. But basically, let's get started from way back.
I want to go. Can we go pre war times?
Pre-war.
Like, let's go like height. Because did you always want to be a soldier?
No.
Okay.
No, never wanted to be a soldier. I'm the baby of 7 children. I'm the youngest of 7 children.
Wow.
And
it must be tough.
We had a wonderful, wonderful upbringing, although we were exceptionally poor, very poor. My father, God bless him, was a shoemaker. And during the winter in New Jersey, when it snowed, during the Depression and stuff, people would put cardboard in their shoes because they couldn't afford a shoemaker,
Oh, wow.
So sometimes for 9 of us, he'd bring home $3 a day, and that's what we lived on, basically. So I'm the only one who graduated high school of the 7 children because everybody had to go to work.
Are we talking 1930s now?
Wow.
Wow.
I was born in 1924, basically.
Wow.
So because I'm 91 years old.
Oh, my God.
And it's a hell of a situation to look back at. But to get back to that, I'm the only one who graduated high school. And during the last year of high school, we all had to work, including me. So I worked in a gas station, quite big, and learned to drive trucks and even a tractor trailer and cars, etc. And a very funny situation goes on with that. When I was drafted, of course, we went to Fort Dix in New Jersey, and from there we went to North Carolina, and that's where we were introduced to 90-millimeter guns. It's a whole big story of the 90-millimeter because the Germans had 88s, and we developed a 90-millimeter gun. The gun was 9.5 tons each gun.
Shit. Wow.
The shells that we fired were 45 pounds each shell, and we could shoot 25 to 30 rounds per minute. Basically, there were 14 men on the gun. 5 men to control the gun. 9 men to control just the ammunition lined up to hold that ammunition, feed it into the gun. So basically, that's what's going on. But also, we had radar that we brought in from England. And the radar, people do not understand one basic thing. They think you shoot at a plane, you're not shooting at a plane. You're shooting, of course, in front of the plane, because by the time that shell gets 30,000 feet or 25,000 feet up, the plane is a long time gone.
Right.
So radar was developed, and the radar basically would show you the height of the plane, the speed of the plane, and how far you'd have to shoot in front.
Right.
And we had an attachment on the gun that we would set the shell into, a fuse setter that was attached to the radar. The fuse setter would set the fuse on the shell so that it would get up to 25 or 30,000 feet and then explode, and the shrapnel, of course, would hit the planes.
Right.
So basically that's it.
That's
now,
smart.
Another interesting point, basically, is I was with the 116th AAA Gun Battalion. The AAA stands for Anti-Aircraft, Anti-Tank, and Artillery. So there were 16 guns in a battalion, and I was in Battery B, 4 batteries to a battalion.
16 of those 90-millimeter guns.
16 90-millimeter guns
Yeah.
attached to a battalion.
Shooting 45-pound missiles, 30 of them in a minute.
30 of them in a
Yeah,
minute.
ridiculous.
So, and basically it was set up north, south, east, and west, where we'd set 4 guns up for A battery, and 5 or 10 miles down the road to the right, you had 4 guns to the B battery, then C battery, then D battery. So we were basically in a tremendous square on the ground, and we lived in the field. We could not live in a house or live in a hotel or anything else. We had to live in the field, because when they came with a tank, we had the only armor-piercing shell that could go through the armor on a German tank.
Right.
So basically, you had 16 guns that were anti-aircraft, anti-tank, and artillery. As far as the artillery is concerned, when a convoy or somebody would block our infantry and they couldn't do anything, we could shoot 6 miles over their head to knock out whatever was blocking them. So we got credit for convoys and tanks and even buildings. When they drop a bomb, basically, it goes 3 feet into the ground and explodes.
Right.
When you knock down a building like in Aachen in Germany, the problem they had there is the ceilings would come down, but the walls, the brick walls, would stand up straight. The windows would be shattered. So the Germans would get behind the walls and shoot through the windows, basically at our men. So we were called in to knock down the walls. So we would fire our 90-millimeter guns and knock down the walls.
Is it a big explosion with? No, it's just more power.
It's just power.
Okay, I got you.
The same power that could shoot a bullet 30,000 feet up.
Now you're
the same velocity to knock down the wall.
That's true.
Go through the armor on a German tank.
God damn, you're right.
The only reason that we developed the 90-millimeter guns, basically, because the Germans, Rommel wanted to put tanks on the beaches to prevent the Allies from coming in. If he had done that, thank God Hitler didn't let him, but if he had done that, we'd have never gotten in, because you shoot a rifle or something at a tank.
It's a joke.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
It really is a joke.
Now, I want to go back to you getting drafted. What's your mindset when you get drafted?
I'm going to go back to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to give you a little history of it, because now I want to talk about when I was drafted. They needed, when the radar, as I told you, was a tractor trailer, 40-foot. They needed, don't forget, we were high school kids. We were drafted right out of high school. So you
18, 19?
17 and a half.
God damn it,
and
man.
broken through that deal. So basically, you had a rough bunch of kids there. So they wanted to know who could drive a tractor trailer, because they had to drive this radar. So, of course, I volunteered, and I walked into the motor pool, and the lieutenant, who was about 6'4" at the time, looked down at me and said to me, "What the hell are you doing here?" And I said to him, "I want to drive that tractor trailer." He says, "You can't even reach the handles on the back door to open it up. You think I'm going to give you a ladder? Get the hell out of here and go to the machine guns. They need little guys on the machine guns." So I go to the machine guns, and there's a little Italian sergeant there. And he says okay, us little Italians, we got to stick together. All of my men are Italians on the machine guns, we got to stick together. So, of course, I opened my big mouth. I said, I'm not Italian, I'm Jewish. So he says to me, okay, great. I can't use the words he said if I'm broadcasting. But anyway, they were not nice words at all.
I can
And he
imagine.
said, go to the big guns. So I went to the big guns, and the guns are 9.5 tons each gun.
How tall are they? Like how?
Well, they're not that tall, basically. I have pictures
Is that a replica?
This is a replica.
as a replica.
Oh, awesome.
That's a
Gotcha.
replica. So you had 5 men to control the height, the width on the guns, and 9 men to control ammunition around it. And I have pictures of basically,
What it looks
you
like.
got cameras and stuff?
Yeah, the camera's
right,
right
right.
there.
Right, okay.
And all this stuff that he's bringing in, guys, I'm going to take pictures and put it up on Twitter so you guys can take a look at it.
Okay. So that's a picture of the gun there on wheels. We have to take it off the wheels, put platforms on, lay them out, and we had 3 minutes
Yeah.
to do it.
I've seen those guns at ports, right?
We were
They shoot at
trained.
the ships.
We were trained basically to take them off the wheels, put the platforms on, and start shooting because that's what you were trained for. And we had the most difficult training that I have ever seen, of course. And that's why we were picked to be the first battalion to go in on Utah Beach.
Utah Beach?
Utah Beach. We landed on Utah Beach.
Uh-huh.
So we were the first battalion to go in because of that. We were pulled by these Caterpillars, full track units.
That's what I was wondering was how you were transporting these things.
Full
I
track
got you.
units. to
Oh,
do
you can
that.
get anywhere with that thing. Oh, damn.
Well, basically, you have to understand. We went in with shore. They didn't know it was going to rain or not, so it was
Right.
mud.
Right.
And then there was snow.
Right. So
know,
different terrains.
Different.
It's a big challenge.
big challenge to pull them.
So you have the gun, and this is the end result of what you do.
That's the end result of what we do. This is the first.
Oh, God.
Shows a tank upside down.
Yeah, but this is the first plane we shot down here.
Here's a picture of a plane.
Right.
And
Okay.
that's me right there. Look, that's me. Right there. with
Can I see that? Let me get a bit better. Look at that smile. That's true happiness right there. Wow.
You know,
You guys must have been the targets. So
this is a picture here of the radar, so you can get an idea of what the radar looked like. That's the radar here,
yeah,
or what it was.
I'm pretty sure you got smaller versions of that
Oh
today.
yeah, I've got every version you can imagine right there.
You want to tell them the story? You want to tell them a story about the plane
Well-
and this picture?
Well, basically, what are you gonna do?
Got it. All right.
Well, basically, we could shoot down a plane with this because the radar would pick it up, as I said before, pick up the height, the speed, etc., so we could
Right.
shoot it right out. And basically, we shot down. This is the 109 that we shot down, and that was the first one. And I think we've got 97 planes to our credit.
Wow. You guys keep any souvenirs from the planes?
Oh yeah, we got everything. Basically.
Yeah, he brought something that he wants to show you guys.
Yes.
Well,
We go
you
with
have
the
to
goodies.
understand
This is a
before I
walking museum
before
right
I
here.
get to there, I want to get you to understand something. I'm Jewish, and the Yiddish language, not Hebrew, but the Yiddish language of the Jewish people, is a derivative of German. So I could understand a lot of the German words. I couldn't speak their dialogue,
Right.
but I could understand a lot of the words. So I became the procurement officer, which is the biggest thief in the outfit, basically. So when we got into position, I would get my men settled, and they would have to take the guns off the wheels and set. But in the meantime, I would take a truck or a detail, and I would go out to the barns or to the German people, to the farms, or hopefully the German barracks, because every time we advanced, we pushed them back. So they left
Right.
everything that they could. So I would pick up whatever I could to bring back to my men, and that's why they called me the giant of a little man, because I could move mountains to do it. So I brought back all kinds of stuff from the German people, and that's a whole different story that we'll get into
eventually.
basically with it. We had to dig now a good story basically to start with that is well, I'm advancing way up, but we'll have to go back to it. We used to have to dig a slit trench because we lived in the fields.
So that's just a really long trench?
Just a trench where you have to move your bowels. And
Right,
you
okay,
had,
gotcha.
You had 159 men coming into a field.
Right.
And you have to have some place to go to the bathroom. And so anybody who didn't do a good job, that was their punishment. They'd have to dig the hole and called it a slit trench. So, but basically I was out at one of the farms and saw an outhouse. Now, living in the city, I didn't know what an outhouse was, but I opened the door of this little house, and there was a board with a hole in it, you know? So I took the board with me, took it away from the Germans, took it back to my outfit, and I had my carpenters put sides on it on hinges so it would fold so you could sit down to move your bowels. So it became a 1-holer, a 2-holer, a 3-holer, a 4-holer, a 5-holer. So at least when we got to a place, now you got 159 men living in the field, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to understand, people do not realize what it is. Everything has to be brought to us.
Right.
Everything has to be brought in, ammunition, clothing, everything has to be brought into it. So anyway, we developed this 5-holer so we could at least have a bathroom set. Another thing is I found another German with a water pump. We were near a lake. We had a German with a water pump, pumping water out. And took it away from him. And between my German and my Luger, we did great. So I took it away from him and brought it back to my outfit. Had my men build a fire, put the pipes over it to warm it up. First time my men had a shower in 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. What a genius. You know what? And when you're out in the wilderness like that, something like that makes such a huge difference, man, with morale.
This is the things you don't learn about in movies, you know, the war movies. These are the details that are in between.
This is an authentic German Luger.
Can I please see that?
Just a minute. I'll show it to you. The handles are ivory because when the plane shot down, I started to say to you, that being a procurement officer, when the plane came down in my area, it was my job to go out to the plane to make sure the plane wouldn't fly anymore, and if the pilot was alive, I captured him. If he wasn't, it's okay. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But so whatever he had on him, I took away from him. So that's how I got this. The handles on this gun were broken because the plane crashed.
Right.
I had the Germans make me ivory handles.
You had the Germans?
The Germans made me ivory handles. Let me tell you something. If I walk into you and you're German and I said to you, hey, you know, if I said to you, hey, this is it, you're going to do what I tell you.
Yeah.
Okay? Anyway, that's a German Luger.
That right
now,
there
that
is
is 100 years old. It was created in...
And it's heavy, too.
It's heavy, but that's without ammunition.
Now, Mike, take a look on the left side, right where your right thumb is. You'll see some writing for the safety. You'll see it in German. It's all German.
Oh, yeah, it's all authentic.
I don't know what that is.
When I was interviewing Mr. Locker, and he showed it to me, I have a friend named Jeff Charrington who's up in the State Department, and I took a picture and I texted to him, and I said, what does this mean? And he immediately wrote back, he says, oh, it's in German. He goes, it means safety. So
how do you
be careful?
I don't know how do you clear the chamber like this? You have screws on this gun? Like,
no,
this is old.
No, you pull it up.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
I like that.
How many rounds would that shoot?
9.
Is it pretty accurate?
Oh yeah, very.
Is it a 9mm?
Yeah, 9mm. Now look at this.
Oh, and what is this?
These are all authentic daggers that the officers carry.
These are German?
Holy shit, it's got a swastika on it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, anything I tell you, anything
something?
I tell you has to be authenticated.
Yeah.
There's
I've
nothing,
never wanted a dagger so much in my life.
Oh.
This is so badass.
I have about 3 of them right now.
One thing I like to say, Mike, is that these items that you see, Mr. Locker has pictures, him holding these back in 1945. So it's not something that he's acquired over the years and then telling stories. He has pictures of him holding the Luger, the bayonets.
Yeah.
Here's the actual, if you look over here, here's the Luger that he's holding.
What year
back
is that?
in 1945, 44.
Wow.
44.
That's that Luger.
Man.
All right? So this is not something he purchased on a Saturday.
No, yeah, this is something.
I like that. That's a killer right there.
That's a killer.
Damn.
That's a killer.
So
I carry that every day of my life.
it's hard for me to wrap my mind around this because it's like I'm seeing the swastikas and stuff on the daggers. These daggers are beautiful, but it's like I'm holding this, and this was a Nazi soldier's dagger.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, this is the closest I've ever come to, a Nazi. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something you hear about in school.
Well, everything that I have is authentic. Believe me.
Yeah.
Check out the
James,
nicest.
you see this, bro?
I'm going to look at it. All right, now I'm going to show you this picture here.
This is awesome.
Same picture you looked before when he's holding the Luger. Look what's in his belt buckle. Right on below right before the.
There it is.
There it is.
Oh shit!
So this is a knife that he has back in 1945 that's stuck in his belt buckle.
Right.
So it's not something that he purchased on a Saturday at a gun show or whatever. This is World War II Germany carrying this stuff around.
Well, let me describe some of this stuff.
Basically, you have to understand something.
Yeah.
When you jump into a hole, if there's a German in that hole, one of you not coming out.
Right. And it's quick decisions,
and
too.
you do not have time to pull a gun.
Right.
So you have to have something like that
Close
to
combat.
protect combat.
Yeah, so what we have two daggers here. What are the handles made of? Is that ivory too?
I just want to say real quick that
Go ahead.
I think it's crazy that this is stuff that you see behind glass
at museums.
And
we're sitting
and
here
he's
playing with
allowing
it.
us to handle these things.
Yeah.
And it brings it a lot more to it. It's real. You study it in school.
Yeah.
But it's when you sit down and you have a conversation with someone like this and you touch these items that he brought back that it just, I don't know. It's a whole new experience.
It's almost like a time machine.
Yeah,
you go
really
back in
is.
time
It's a
and
time capsule.
you're there.
It really is.
So we have two daggers here with ivory handles. They have swastikas all over them. They're beautifully designed. They were both commandeered from a Nazi soldier. Then we also have his dagger. That's not just a dagger. It has brass knuckles on it. It looks like it has a center punch on the end of it, and that was for close combat. And here I'm holding a grenade. I'm hoping this thing still doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. I go to take it to the school, so
Yeah.
I get clearance to take it in, but it doesn't fire.
But this, and you keep these strapped to you.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
They're waterproof because
they're waterproof. But
Yeah.
basically, there's a whole new story that I want to talk about. When we made the invasion, basically
D-Day.
D-Day,
Right.
you had 27 pounds. Everything you owned was on your back, wrapped up in a pup tent canvas.
Okay.
That was on our back. So that was, let's say, 27 pounds. You had a 3-pound helmet. The weight of the helmet was 3 pounds. You had 4 hand grenades strapped to your front. You had ammunition across your chest for your rifle. And you carried a rifle, and you carried on your belt, you carried a shovel, etc., and a gun and a knife the same way.
What's the shovel for?
The shovel was more important than a damn rifle at certain times. You had to dig a hole every night.
Oh yeah, the foxholes.
You had to dig a hole
Right.
every night. Now, basically,
And that keeps you warm, or
no,
keeps you
no,
not
it keeps you safe,
safe. Okay, gotcha.
not warm. Now, it was my job to go out and get straw and hay, and put whatever we could into that hole for my men.
No
to keep
burning
them.
fires, right? To keep warm because anyone
Can't
can
do
see
that
it.
because
yeah.
then, of course, the smoke, etc. So
yeah,
that's
that
how
shit
we
sucks,
lived.
bro.
We lived in the field. We lived in the field, and that's what we did basically. So it was my job to do that. Now, the only other thing that we talked about when I said about procurement officer,
Right.
we had sandbags around the gun to protect it. So I found a German barracks that we bombed, and the roof was laying there, a section of the roof. I brought the section of the roof back, measured it out, extended the sandbags on our guns, and put a roof over it so my men could sleep under a roof. Put straw and hay on the ground, and then instead of a foxhole basically in there, they could sleep in that
Right.
way to do it.
Right.
So that's some of the things that I did. And like I said, at 19 years old, I was a staff sergeant, promoted to staff sergeant.
Yeah. In charge of 60
at 19,
men.
in charge of all those men, and 4 guns and ammunition and supplies and everything else.
So I wonder when you're in a scenario like that, because obviously at 19, it doesn't matter. No age can you be prepared for what you had to go through. Is that something where it becomes natural, or you just completely fall back on your training, and you're able to rely on that, and that's what gets you through it?
Yeah, basically that's part of it. And being brought up with 7 children, you learn to get along.
Right.
And I was a Boy Scout, and I was honored by the Boy Scouts because even at that age, a young age, I could get the young kids to work with me on a project and get it organized. And I was brought...
you're good with people management, almost.
People management, basically.
And that's a great skill.
Yeah,
that,
because everything was with a smile and with a joke. And
how old are the men in your platoon? Are they older than you?
No.
You guys are all
basically the same age.
So this is like a
some
damn
older.
field trip or something.
Yeah,
wow.
Basically the same. But we were all drafted out of high school.
That's so crazy.
90% of the men. And, of course, the older men were brought in to train us.
Right.
They were brought in to train us on the 90-millimeter guns.
Right.
So they were all older than we were.
They were probably 22.
Yeah, well, whatever the hell.
Right. No, that's not even a joke.
Whatever the hell they were, but they were older.
Right.
And you had to, respect them on that base because they were officers or non-commissioned officers. And they were pretty tough because, you got high school kids, they're pretty tough to control.
Yeah,
You got a bunch of wise guys.
Spirit.
And
burns bright.
But anyway, those are the things that I tried to accomplish to do it. And that's why I was written up of being a giant of a little man,
right,
to the point of getting my men all of these things and doing for them basically to make their life easier and psychologically just talking to them that we're going to get through this. We're going to be okay. We're not going to get killed, and we're not going to this. And telling them a joke and telling them stories. And
right.
A smile on my face.
Keep morale up.
Right. James, when I interviewed other World War II veterans, they would tell me stories about them being in high school and going to school, and the very next day they're shipped off to war. And the one guy told me, 1 month I'm in high school, the next month he explained in detail how he shot a German in the head and killed him. He goes, how do you explain to people how fast you have to grow up to be in 1 month later he's killing people in another country, and he was very moved about that. And most of all of these heroes had to do that right out of high school. Just imagine yourself. And we're lucky today.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We have no concept of what it was like for them, and like I said earlier, just seeing these things and handling these things and hearing the stories firsthand, which I have never done. You can watch a million movies, but to really get the idea, I never thought about that story, like you just said, about a month later. That thought never crosses your mind that it was that fast, of a transition from childhood, from adolescence to you man up. That's it. There's no other option. It's man up or dead, and it's.
Now let's talk about something else that people do not understand. Have you ever heard about the Ghost Army?
No.
The Ghost Army. The Ghost Army, basically, we had to fool the Germans before the invasion as to where we were going to invade. The closest part that they thought we were going to come in is from England into that. So we had to fool the German army. So we created what they call the Ghost Army. We had air-inflated tanks, trucks, men,
God, I did hear
everything
about this.
at all. Genius. All Hollywood stuff, all garbage you see in the movies is what they did. And I have pictures of that to show you.
Games of war. Yeah.
And basically we did that to confuse the Germans so that they wouldn't know where the hell we were going to invade. So that's a whole different situation. And I have all different things. That's the Ghost Army, basically.
Okay.
The DVDs of everything that we did. And I have pictures of the camouflage units that you could not tell, basically, what the truth from the deception of it.
Yeah, while he's looking at that, I want to tell you, too, that another thing when I go into these people's houses, I see pictures that no one has seen in 70 years. I had a nurse who went into a Dachau, and she and her friends took pictures of dead bodies, body 9-10 feet high, pictures that have never been brought out to the public. The public have never seen because they've kept them in an album in their house
Right.
for 70 years, and they bring them out, and I took pictures of them and I sent them up. But there is so much out there, the proof of exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
Here's a-
Holocaust deniers. I can't
Here's
believe
basically
that.
a picture of an
Oh,
army unit
shit.
set up that way.
So, are you guys hiding?
Not me, but that's a ghost army that
So you-
would
you-
hide. That,
okay.
But when the Germans would come over and take pictures of it, this is what they would see,
Okay.
basically. And from this authentic picture,
Oh, that's a good one. That's all air. These are all fake Jeeps.
No.
So from the air, it looks like you got an army.
That looks intimidating.
That's crazy. Wow.
That looks intimidating.
Wow.
How smart is that? Because at this point, I'm assuming that radio traffic has got to be monitored, and they're trying to
yeah.
decipher code. And yeah,
Oh, and they're probably saying the Americans and British are probably saying, "All right, take that 2 million barrels of oil and bring them over here."
they're just sending fake
And-
messages.
And here's the
Yeah.
fake oil.
Yeah.
and they all
Barrels.
fake messages. We have people in England, etc., that were just doing that.
Man,
And it was all
Could
fake.
you imagine your
Psychological
entire job and
Yeah.
was to sit
Well-
and send false messages so
Yeah,
that people
and now listen, and we have a man in the villages
right?
who was in the Ghost Army that I interviewed and became a very good friend. He's deaf in both ears. And incidentally, 90% of my men are deaf in both ears from the amount of the size of the shell we
Right.
fired.
Yeah, I can only imagine. The Germans had a gun in World War I that was so loud when they shot it that they had to shoot it a mile away, and it had to keep their mouths open so they wouldn't blow their eardrums. So I can only imagine what you guys are going through. I'm
Well,
surprised you can hear me.
Well, I got a smile on my face till today.
Right.
Because I am so fortunate and so lucky to be alive and not be deaf. That it's unbelievable because, like as I said before, 90% of my men. Now, you talk about a shell.
Deaf isn't the only thing, because being deaf isn't the only thing you need to worry about. Because with that kind of that jolt from shooting the gun, it causes concussions, and you still seem to have your wits about you. So I'm glad with that. There's no brain damage from that.
Yeah, I said the same thing when I was interviewing him. He told me that over 90% of these guys are just deaf, and he can hear very well.
Yeah.
And I asked him, how is it that you can hear so well and your other guys? And there's no explanation.
Genetics.
It's just the way it is sometimes. You're lucky.
Was there anything personal you had against the Germans since your
No.
Jewish heritage?
No, not basically. And I just told Mike a story coming over here the same way. I went to we did not liberate this camp, but I was visited Gardelegen. And Gardelegen was a barn where they took, let's say, 1,000 people or whatever it is. They filled a barn. They put hay and straw into this barn in Gardelegen. And then they put all the people in there and then lit it. Closed the doors and lit the hay and the straw and burned them to death. If you tried to get out, basically, you were shot.
Right.
So you were dead one way or another. And I talked to the people, and as I said, I couldn't speak their dialogue, but I could get to the people. And when I finally got there, I said, my God, man's inhumanity to man. Couldn't you possibly look and see what the hell's going on? They said, originally, they said, no, there was a wall around it, but that was garbage. When I finally pinned them down, they said, listen, if we opened our mouth, we'd have been in the barn. So it was self-preservation strictly for the German people that they kept their mouths shut. Of course, you had the young people. The young people were devoted to Hitler. They took their allegiance to Hitler. The older people took their allegiance to Germany.
Gotcha.
The Jewish people that were in Germany took their allegiance to Germany, not Hitler.
Right.
So basically, that was the separation between it. So the young people gave us all kinds of problems. When we surrounded the older soldiers, the Germans
Surrendered.
They surrendered. They threw their hands up, bitter.
You realize it's not worth it.
They realized it the same way. They wanted to live.
Yeah.
The young kids we couldn't. No way. They were dedicated to kill us or get killed.
Right.
So that was the deal.
Do you have any close calls to being captured?
No close calls at all.
Can you give us any insight on how we treated our POWs during the World War II? Did we treat them
we
decently?
treated the POWs pretty good until we found out that they were taking our soldiers and lining them up and shooting them.
Gotcha.
And then taking the uniforms off of them. And if you were in England, coming out here is a good example of not knowing where the hell to go, etc. They would give us the name of a city where we would have to report, to move up.
Yeah, but you don't even speak the language.
We don't speak the language.
Road signs don't
but
make
what
sense.
happened is, if you were German and you could speak English, you were promoted immediately because they took the MPs, they killed our MPs and took the labels of our MPs off and dressed them as soldiers, the German soldiers, with our uniforms.
Oh.
The MP, and they were directing us in the wrong direction because we would come to a corner and you had an MP going that way. So there was an awful lot to fight about and an awful lot to understand.
There's so much
that you had a map,
warfare
but
going on.
there's so many things that people do not understand of what we went through to do that, especially at night. You get a march order, and they give you a name of a city. That's where you got to report. Now, who the hell knows where that city is? So you take a look at a map and, okay, you're going to go north, you're going to go east, you're going to go west. But if there was an MP directing you, that was great.
Right.
But if they directed you in the wrong direction, you got killed or captured.
At this point, were the Germans blowing up bridges and stuff just to make it difficult
absolutely.
for you to get anywhere?
You have to understand, every time we pushed them back, they were throwing everything in our way. And every field we got to, there was big signs called Achtung Minen. That means mines. You didn't know whether they were there or not, but if the goddamn sign was there, you better watch it. Now, the same way I was telling Mike, when we got a march order to go 50 miles or 25 or 30 miles, we had the time, so I would have to go ahead with a guy with a mine detector because we lived in the field. And there were signs, Achtung Mine. So he could have a mine detector to try to go and try to find the mine.
What a shitty job.
But listen, you talk about a shitty job. When you talk about that, if we had a march order for 10 miles, it was my job to go and take a damn Jeep and run that Jeep up and down the field.
Distract or what?
No,
no mines.
No mines.
So you were the mine detector.
I was the mine detector.
The human mine detector.
I was the mine detector.
Oh man.
So you talk about being scared, or you talk about, I was also telling Mike when I go to kids and I talk about to the kids and try to bring it into their language, into their realm of thought, and I would say, okay, let's talk about something so you understand. There's a darkened house, black. There's a man in there with a gun. Now, you got to go in there and either kill him or capture him. Would you be afraid?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of
So
course.
to bring it into their level to get them to understand of what we went through and where we were is unbelievable. So that's one of the things.
Not to mention that you're trying to fight an enemy, especially when you're in like German territory or something. It's something that they're familiar with, and it's something that you're seeing for the first time. And so the advantage automatically goes to them. They already know the terrain.
Because we're going into the unknown, and they know it. They know where they are. They know what to do.
They know where you are.
They know where we are, basically.
And that's even scary. And when we're talking about shooting missiles 6 miles, I mean, you can't. How can you even relax? Is there ever a moment? There's talk like in World War One. There was talks that like there was moments of peace between like Germany and the other countries, going out in World War One. Where like during holidays they would come out into the foxholes, they would share a song or they'd kick a soccer ball around together. Were there any times like that with World War II?
No, not to my knowledge.
Well, World War II is one of those wars where it's like there's a clear-cut enemy. We knew how evil and needed to be stomped out, And
well, you have to understand, if you lived in a city, maybe that was possible to associate with Germans.
Right.
Okay? We lived in a field.
That's true.
So we were totally away from people to that point. So we had no communication, basically, with the average person. When I would go out on my procurement stuff, I would run into Germans and go into their houses or go into their farms and get whatever the hell
Loot,
whatever the hell I could get to
Right.
bring back to my men. But other than that, we didn't have that. We didn't have that at all.
Do you know, did the Germans have a specific team dedicated for you guys? Because it seems like you would be a big pain in the ass. Like, blowing up tanks.
No, their planes came to look for us.
That's what I'm saying.
Basically, their planes came to look for us, the same as we did with the German 88s, because we could knock their planes down.
Gotcha.
So they were out looking for us
target on your
constantly.
back.
We were their targets basically to do that. So we got strafed,
You don't
and
want
we
to
got
cause attention to yourself, man.
whatever it is. That's basically what it was.
Kind of hard not to when you have one of these things sitting out in the middle of the field, pointing to the gun.
Right.
Now, with nowadays, with our military, when as we have wars happen in modern day, you go out, you do a tour, you come home, you do 2-3 tours, but there's times when you get to come home and you still see your family while there's still a war going on. Now, with the World War being as massive and all-encompassing as it was, you obviously didn't do that back and forth. How long of a stint from the time you landed over there to the time you came home were you there? Overseas?
3 years.
3 years solid.
Yeah.
Wow.
3 years.
Any contact at all? Letters? Anything?
Oh, yeah. We wrote letters, whether they got home or not, of course I knew. But we did communicate. Now, like I said, you asked me a question about drafting before.
Right.
Now, 2 of my brothers were drafted before me.
I
when
thought
you talked
that was
about
illegal
being
or something like
volunteer,
that.
no. You talked about did I want to go in.
Right.
I sure and hell didn't want to go in because from what they wrote home, there was no picnic. But I had 2 brothers and 2 brother-in-laws who went in before me. They were my older brothers. So the stuff that they wrote home, I was not happy about at all.
Did they make it?
They made it.
Okay.
They made it. As a matter of fact, I have pictures here. One of my brothers was wounded in England in a tank.
Okay.
And I went to see him. I found him.
Oh, you found him in England?
I found him in England.
Oh, wow.
This is one of the tents. His brother is in this camp.
So you heard that he had gotten hurt and you went to go
he
see
wrote
him?
home that he was wounded in the tank, and then he went to the hospital, and they trained him medically to do it. That's an interesting story. I went to see him, and I said to him, I'm looking for Locker. And they said, he's in that tent over there. So I walked over there, and there he is sleeping in a cot. And I kicked the cot, and I said, hey, Locker, get up. And he says, get away from me. I've been up all... He didn't know it was me. Yeah. He says, get away from me. He says, I've been up all night on duty. He says, I got to get some sleep. I said, get your ass out of that goddamn cot now. And he picked up the blanket, and he saw my boots until he got to the knife with there and the Luger. Then he jumped out of bed, and it was great. Then we got drunk as hell that night, and
that must have been a good feeling in the middle of the war.
Good feeling
have
to
a reunion.
to do that, Yeah. But anyway, so like I said, I was drafted, and but it's the same way. Sometimes an opportunity you think it's a disappointment, like with the radar, turned into a good thing by going to the guns. You know what I mean? So it gave me an opportunity to advance and get to where the hell I was and come home safe and sound. So that's a big thing.
You put these on the table. What are these right here?
These are K rations. People do not understand. This is what a lot of times we lived out of.
Oh, no. That's
peanut
what you're
butter
eating?
and jelly, K rations.
He brought him home.
Oh, wow.
No,
Are those...
Those are actual. Read them.
Actual
Yeah, you got
peanut
peanut butter and jelly.
Look
you
at the
got
rust. 1945. Look at the rust.
You got stuff there.
And yes, I would love to know what's in there and whether or not you could eat it.
It says something with juices.
From a medical standpoint, I would not advise it.
Pork with juice? What is this? This is pork in a can. Oh, God.
Well, listen, you have to understand. You have to understand that
Crackers in a can?
if you're out there, you couldn't go to a supermarket and go buy.
Yeah, that's true.
Everything had to be brought to you, and how could they possibly feed you that way?
You said crackers in a can.
Right.
Well, if you had
Nothing.
a million crackers together and you just threw them on, they're going to all get crushed up.
Yeah, it's true.
So everything's all preserved.
Whatever it is, that's why I say I used to go to the farms, and that's why what I brought back. Now, we had a kitchen, or a truck with a kitchen that they could heat water and stuff and feed us. You know what I mean? But basically, that had to be brought in. You had to bring it in for them to do it. So that was a good part of my job, basically, is whatever I could find on the farms, the eggs, the chickens. If I found a cow in the way, it wouldn't hurt, you know. I found a crippled cow in the way.
I can't, the happiness that would come out of just getting a dozen
hot meal.
eggs or a hot meal. You're stuck in the forest in the snow, and you're scavenging, and you just come across a farm. And
I got pictures of some of my men cooking a chicken, heating the fire and
drooling, right?
Drooling a chicken. So
this is pork pieces with juice, still in the can, closed can.
So disgusting.
You say that, but I guarantee you, after a year in the foxhole, this was probably.
Listen, I don't eat pork, but I'd eat that pork. I'd drink the juice and I'd lick the can. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, these are the examples that people do not understand. People do not realize what it is to go to war and to live in a field and to be excommunicated, other than the 14 men you're living with and the group around you, and that's what you have, basically.
That's why we have to honor these guys, because we don't have to eat out of those cans.
Right.
They did that for us.
Yeah, can you imagine going outside and all the signs are in German?
Yeah. There's that. Have you seen that TV show?
No.
There is. I think it was also a book, and it is The Man in the High Castle, and it's an Amazon Prime series, and I believe it was originally a book, and they've made it to a series, and it is so weird. It almost gives me the heebie-jeebies to watch this TV show, because they show. The war ended in 45, right? Mm-hmm. Well, in this version, in this alternate universe, the war ends in 47. We lose the war. Hitler takes over the world.
Oh, shit.
And the United States is split between Japan and Hitler. So it's split right down the middle. So they show New York in 1947, and all the American flags look the same except for where the stars are at. It's a white swastika.
Wow.
And there's German officers everywhere. And it is a scary, scary, just visually staring at it, you're like, that's I don't know. I can't even describe it. It gives me chills to watch it.
Wow. Okay, but basically, there's a picture, if you can show that. That's a picture of the shell that we fired. The size of that shell that we fired.
He has one back at home.
Yeah,
I know y'all can't see this very well, and we're going to put a lot of pictures up online so you can see this also.
We recreated a shell through Picatinny Arsenal.
On their Twitter, bitches.
Do it.
And how much of those shells weigh?
45 pounds.
45
each shell.
Pounds, each shell.
3 feet tall, 45 pounds. Where's the flag?
Oh, flag right there. Why don't you tell a story about that?
Okay, now let's talk about the flag a little bit.
Oh, God. All right.
And keep in mind, guys, he's Jewish.
Yeah.
100% Jewish when he tells his story.
Now, this is the Nazi flag that I took off a wall in Berlin.
Holy shit.
And I had
look at that thing.
Wow.
I know. I got a story, an authentic story that is really emotional. Wow. I carry. You can see this hat that I wear in the villages. A young man sees me, and he stops me. He says, "Gee, my father was in World War II, but I was only 18 months old when he got killed." He says, "And I've always been interested in the war and everything." So I said, "I have all of these memorabilia in my home, and I come to the house." And I'll be happy to show you and explain it to you. 2 weeks later, he called me. He says, "You're not going to believe this. I found your name in my father's army book."
Oh.
I says, "You're kidding." When I checked back, his father signed that flag. His father signed that flag.
Wow.
When he came when he heard that,
wow,
he came to my home with his family, his sisters and brother. They took the flag and just held it to their cheek and cried. And it was unbelievable. Now, I get so many letters. You brought my grandfather back to life. You brought my uncle. They see a name, because it was all New Jersey and Delaware. And
Patty Ventola,
yep,
First Ward,
yep,
Newark.
Yep.
Jim Pop Farrell.
So people see that.
These are names you're reading right off the flag.
Right off the flag.
Right off the flag.
So these are the names that were in my outfit and signed it.
What's that one, Brooklyn?
Yep.
This one?
Yeah.
Jim Pop Farrell, Brooklyn, New York. Yeah.
So people see those names and they go.
What I'd like to
go wild
bring
with
to this is when I went over to his house, to interview him for the Library of Congress. He opened up the garage door. He has this thing up on the wall, so you could see it from the from the street if you wanted to. Can you imagine walking by a guy's house whose garage door is open and there's a Nazi flag hanging out?
Yeah, but I always.
But what's really funny
But
is
I always put this over
Jewish. It's just, it's mind-boggling. He has every right. If there's anybody who has a right to fly this flag in his garage or wherever he wants to, with those names, these heroes' names on it, it's just remarkable. And that's one of the things I wanted
right
to
now.
Yeah,
I got goosebumps.
Oh, yes.
This thing was hanging on a German building in Germany, and these guys came and took it off. Wow. Go ahead. Touch it, James.
I do. I wanted to. I was like, this whole time I was thinking about it.
Put it across the table and you'll see.
It's such a symbolic thing.
Right.
Like
I got to tell you a funny story about that. We used to run reunions. I got this stuff, you couldn't bring this stuff home, so I had my men take pieces of all of this stuff, and we used to have reunions. So in Pennsylvania, and we had this on the wall with all our different stuff, and people would knock on the door. They thought it was a Nazi Bund meeting, And the guys would come out and say, no, honest to God, the chairman's Jewish. It's not a Nazi Bund meeting. This is honest to God, he's Jewish. Don't worry about it.
You should put this on background on YouTube or something.
Another one thing I'd like to bring up about Mr. Locker is everything he's done and everything you're listening to and will hear. He continues to tell his stories, not only here, but he goes out to high schools, middle schools. He goes out and with all of this memorabilia and tells these kids the stories that you're hearing today. Yeah. And the one story that he told me was one time he went there and he brings up Hitler and some people in the tell the story.
Yeah, the kids they don't even know who Hitler is today.
What? No,
they do not know who Hitler is, and they do not talk about it in the schools and everything else. So when I get done with them, they know. Pretty. As a matter of fact, Congressman Rich Nugent.
We're planning on getting him on the podcast. I reached out to him.
Well, he was at my home, and he's the one who called me a real hero because the veterans don't want to talk about it. Most veterans do not talk about it because you have to understand you relive it when you talk about it. When I go to the schools or the different organizations and I talk about the Holocaust, I don't sleep that night because basically you relive it. It's the smells and everything else is what it is. And I have pictures. Did we have that there?
Yes, that's what I wanted to ask you because I smell something every once in a while and I instantly get teleported back to whenever I first smelled it. Do you have things like that, like flashbacks?
Only when you talk about it. That's why the veterans don't want to talk about it. Now that's Gardelegen. That's the barn that they burned.
This is the actual barn. That was burned.
And the bodies that you see by his right hand are all of the different.
Did you take these pictures?
Yeah, those pictures were with my own camera.
You smelled the bodies?
Absolutely.
You'll never forget that stuff.
Never.
These are examples of what I see when I go into these veterans' homes. They have these pictures that no one has ever seen before. They keep them, and they should be in museums and libraries.
Well, this will all be donated to a museum, and that's Eisenhower's speech alongside of it. Actual speech, right? He talked about bringing the Germans in to help bury the bodies and stuff. But the big thing that he said is, at that time, he said, in 30 years from now, some bastard will say this never happened. So they are, but he said it then. He said it then, and it's in his speech right there, in writing, is what he said, basically.
When you said barn, I was picturing 50 by 100. That looks much larger.
That's a much larger barn. That's a huge barn. And they filled it with hay and straw.
And
then lit it.
Wow.
And look at the writing on the side of it. That's Eisenhower's writing, basically. And it says right there, 30 years from now, some bastard will say this never happened.
Yeah. So what we're looking at is he has a couple pictures. What's the name of the concentration camp?
Gardelegen, Germany.
It's for your listeners out there. It's the massacre of Gardelegen. It wasn't really
concentrated.
They rounded up all these guys because the Americans were.
Well,
coming
it really
in.
was started out as a labor camp.
Yes,
gotcha.
But when we got close to them,
they just killed everyone.
They killed everybody because they didn't want the people to to tell us what was going on and etc.
There's just bodies everywhere. They're all over the ground. They're just laying on top of each other, sloppy. They're wasting away. They're
Those are
obviously
actual
dead,
pictures that
burnt
I
up.
took with my own camera.
Yeah, and he took this with his own camera. They're in black and white, but just imagine. It doesn't even look real. It's cartoonish. It's just the bodies.
You see it on TV. You hear people explain it to you, but we're sitting next to a guy who took the pictures, standing in front of the bodies.
And
the bodies that we were wondering.
Let me describe that smell of burnt flesh, because it's just like
it's something
real sweet and it chokes you, like you smell, and it's thick.
Well, let me tell you something.
You smell it's disgusting.
It's because you guys were firemen.
I was a fireman when I saw it, but I'm working EMS right now, and like it was just a car fire. Someone got burnt up. And you'll never forget that.
No, you won't. I mean, my partner, my old partner, was a big believer in that you have to just get it over with, see it for the first time, and then just move on. And so when I remember my first car fire that had an entrapment in it, and there was no way of helping this individual. And he's like, "Come on." I was like, "Where are we going?" He's like, "We're going down there." I was like, "I don't want to go down there." He's like, This is the life. This is the part of the job, and I don't want to go too far off this. I just want to say that that, like you said, that's just something you'll never forget. And you see it, you smell it, and so I can't imagine seeing one, and then you've seen hundreds.
When I go to the churches to talk, they have once a year they have Holocaust that they try to celebrate, even in the churches and stuff. Whenever I'm invited, and we talk about it there. To the one point that they say to me, "What was your reaction?" And I have to tell them the truth. First, I threw up. When I got there, I threw my guts up. I couldn't
get it out of the way.
And then I sat down and cried, because that was the only absolute feeling of man's inhumanity to man. How they could do that to human beings is unbelievable, unbelievable. But was my reaction. First, I threw up, and then I sat down and cried. And that was the end of it. I couldn't do anything about it. Okay, let's go back to one other thing that from in England before the war. Right. I have to go back now to this one point. When we were training in England before the invasion, Eisenhower wanted to use live ammunition over our head because, again, I say we were high school kids and had no idea. So they used live ammunition, not at us, but over our head so we could get used to the sounds, etc. Now, while we were there in Slapton Sands, England, 2 German torpedo boats came in and sunk 2 of our LSTs, and we lost, at the time it was started at 700 people. It wound up at 947 people that were killed. They kept it an absolute total secret for 40 years because they didn't want the families to know their kids got killed before the invasion. Okay? Yeah. I'm the only American that they paid because I went through it. There's a company called D-Day Revisited in England. They paid my expenses and my wife to bring me back to England. We went from England to France so that I could lay a wreath at our dead soldiers' place. And when I got there at Normandy,
it's the first time since you left, right?
First time. I wouldn't go back.
40 years. How many years? 60 years?
Yeah, 70 years. 60 years. Anyway, basically, they wanted to know why I never came back. I said, why would I ever come back to be reminded? I didn't have a good time. I didn't. Right. I went to Paris one time, and that was, just in Paris. But we fought through Paris to do it. Once we had it licked, then I went back to have a weekend or a day or something else. That's different. But while I was in Normandy, all the children were wearing this.
Go ahead and read it.
I am a child of freedom. Merci, dear veteran. All the children, all were wearing this. And I went to the teacher and I said to him, gee, I got to buy one to bring home to do it. Yeah. Now, I wear this French Legion of Honor, and I was wearing it then. Now, everybody heard about it, but nobody has ever seen it there. So the kid took a picture with me. He says, you can't buy that. He took it right off his back. He says, you take mine. And that's the actual thing that came off of the kid's back.
Wow.
To bring back home. So
and the medal is, as you can see, is on his chest.
Right.
He's
yeah,
wearing it.
yeah, that's what I was wearing. And like I said, they heard of it, like everybody here.
Right.
You hear about it, but very few people have seen it.
How many men have that?
I have a book. Audie Murphy has one, and a lot of the stars have them. I don't know how many men have it, but in the villages, I try to get. They appointed me to try to help men
Right.
to try to get it.
Right. Okay.
But basically, it's the same way as in England. It has to be authenticated. So many veterans, and I'm not knocking any veteran, don't get me wrong, but you talk to some of the veterans, oh, yeah, I was there. Oh, yeah, I did this. Oh, yeah. Anyway, you have to prove a lot of the stuff that you were there, etc. I have a chronological order of every day of the war. Every day scheduled in the war.
Did you keep a diary?
No,
a journal?
they did it on a battalion. They did it as a battalion for us.
Here's the actual picture taken back then of him with the
This is
Luger.
Yeah. And this is the display that you ought to show this too. That's a display that I take around and I show.
This is where he goes into high schools. And
Yeah, we saw that one.
Yeah. And I forgot about
No,
this book.
this
you
is a
have.
chronological order of every single day of the war. So when we talk about something, I can prove everything that I say by date, by time, by place, and everything.
Okay.
See March
Wow.
and April there?
Yeah.
That's when the Tiger exercise took place, where the torpedo boats came in England.
And in the front of the book is a picture of the actual gun that he's been talking about all day.
Okay. The 90 millimeter.
Yeah.
Let's do D-Day because we haven't talked about it yet, and that's one of those things. That's what everyone knows about World War II. Is
Okay.
D-Day.
Let's talk about D-Day.
So it's D-Day. The Germans, they knew you were coming from the water. Everything's set up, pointing at the shore. They're gonna slaughter you coming up, and you have to fight upwards, which is the worst strategically the way you could have came in. Correct? Like you're fighting.
Well, we came in on LSTs. Let's talk about LSTs.
Right.
Now, we came in without our guns because we couldn't bring a gun in, a 9.5-ton gun on an LST.
Too heavy.
Oh, my God. We had 30 men on an LST coming in, and I have pictures of that to show you.
The LSTs, are those the boats they kind of open up and everyone jumps out?
That's the one with the
Yes.
front door
Okay,
that the
that's
front
one you
door
see.
opens
Wow.
up.
All right.
There's pictures of, let's say, an LST. See down at the bottom?
Is this real D-Day pictures?
That's real D-Day pictures.
God damn, bro, you just handed me that. This is mind blowing. Like you
Anyway.
handed it to me like it was nothing.
Well, it
This
is.
history.
Once you
right
talk
here.
about it, it's history.
Wow.
But basically, there's a whole good
man.
story to that one as well. The sailors were getting killed just like we were, going back and forth from the LSTs, to bring us in. So we get about 11 feet out
From the shore.
from the shore.
Okay.
Now, the front door of the LST drops down. It's 6 foot long, and it drops down. We get about 11 feet out.
Are you hearing pings? Like are there bullets hitting the boat?
Yeah, but that's beside that. But we get about 11 feet out, and the sailor says, okay, I'm dropping the front door. And my lieutenant, who's on the boat with me, takes out his .45 with a smile, not mad, and walks over to the sailor and said, listen, son, either you take this boat in so my men don't drown, or you're never going to see your family again. Gotcha. Now, he took us in. Now, can you picture me jumping into 5 feet of water?
That's all you got.
That's all I got.
That's all you
That's all I got. And a lot of men were my size, okay? Now, there were more dead Americans there in that water when we went in than you can imagine, because if you tripped in any which way, because they had barbed wire on the floors, they had everything.
What? In the water?
In the water.
floor.
In the water, right on the
didn't
shore.
know that.
And don't forget, I show you pictures. They had stakes in the ground so our boats couldn't
So
come
they're
in.
fully set up waiting
Fully
for you
set up
guys.
waiting for us.
Wow.
Fully set up.
Sir, what are these? All the blimp looking items that are in the picture.
Yeah. Well,
What are those?
Those are to prevent the Germans from attacking us.
I mean, are they blimp? Are
They're
they
blimps up?
Okay.
Yeah, they're blimps up on top. They're
Okay.
blimps.
Okay.
Air-filled blimps
Okay.
to prevent the Germans from coming in to
But
attack us.
how big are
Strafing
those?
us.
How big are they?
Oh, they're big. They're
Okay.
the size of a regular blimp.
Okay, I was just trying to get like a gauge of the size of the.
So it just
Yeah.
blocks the
Okay.
plane from swooping in.
So they're blocked
Okay.
from strafing us.
That's
Okay.
another crappy job to have, man.
Whatever the hell it is. You know? But anyway, that's so. We talked about the dead soldiers and stuff coming in.
You're
If you
having to
tripped,
move 'em out of the way.
if you
yeah.
tripped in any which way and went down, if somebody wasn't alongside of you to pick you back up, a buddy of yours, you're dead, because you can't swim. You're so top heavy. I told you what we were carrying: a
Yeah.
3-pound helmet,
Yeah.
a rifle, ammunition,
You just
hand
drown.
grenades. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're so top heavy that if you tripped and went down, you couldn't swim.
it.
You were dead.
Are we talking hundreds or thousands
Well,
of
we're
people?
talking.
in the,
let's say hundreds. Let's say 50,
Just
70
all over the
around
world.
me, around where we came in. Basically, that you couldn't say thousands. Who the hell knows?
And the whole time you're trying to
nobody
wade through
stopped
this,
to count them. Believe
people
me.
are still people. There's just people dropping dead in front of you from
Well,
getting
yeah,
shot.
that's a different story. That's a different story. Strafing when they strafe, they just shoot some machine guns.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
what was your like? Where did they expect you to go once you got off the boat? Was it like, all right, we're gonna get off this boat and we need to run behind that right there, or is
Well, no, you're in the ground. You're on land.
right?
You have to get in the land, and the only way that we could get in, the only way we got in, basically, people do not understand it. The only way we got in was, well, there's a whole story about Germans, where the Germans were, and we confused them with this ghost army. So we distracted them from where we were going to land. Okay? But the fact remains that they still had soldiers dug in and shooting at us. Well, I show you the size of the guns that they were shooting at us. It's unbelievable.
I guess what he's saying. Once you got on shore,
But
then
once-
what did you do?
Once we got on shore, then make sure you understand, we could not bring our guns in when we landed. We came in on Higgins' boat.
Right.
The guns had to come in separately. The guns had to be brought in.
So you had nothing to deal
We
with
had nothing
long range.
but rifles.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
We had
that's a
nothing
bad
but
scenario
rifles,
to be in.
basically, there.
Let me ask you, and this is a serious question: how accurate did Saving Private Ryan portray D-Day? Because watching that movie gives me goosebumps, and the chaos.
Pretty good, except that they had to sell it. You have to understand
okay.
that they still had to deceive you.
A little bit. So like explosions, people getting ripped in half, and
yeah.
things like that.
So
Okay,
some of it
gotcha.
yes, and some of it no, basically, with it. But
How long did it take for your guns to come on board? Come on to
pretty
the beaches.
It wasn't that long, but I want to show you pictures of. That's a Higgins boat.
This is what they came in on.
Yeah.
I know. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But then the LSTs,
That
they
word
had
must have been red.
they had a float. They had to make floats with boats to bring the guns in close.
Right.
And
Well,
the
until you get the guns, you're sitting ducks.
The guns were sitting ducks, but in other words, the guns all had to be waterproofed,
Right.
totally waterproofed, and brought in with the big tanks, with their caterpillars.
He told me by this time the Germans had been pushed back.
Oh, okay. All right. They
You
pushed
know,
back a little
they're
bit.
pushed back.
Well, the amount of men that we had coming in, do you have any idea of the amount of men?
Something like 100. Was it 100,000?
Oh, more than that. I have a listing of every.
So no, Battle of the Bulge, you're talking like 600,000 or something like that.
These are some of the items that he takes to this.
This is a picture, basically, of England and where the invasion. Let it go.
Okay.
England,
The route.
Yeah,
the route
gives you
of
like
all
a
the
quick snapshot.
There were 5 beaches.
Can I see it?
Yeah, there were 5 beaches. We came in on Utah. There was Utah, Omaha.
Okay.
All right, now I have numbers here that are very interesting. The American force has landed 24,000 men on Utah Beach. I came in with 24,000 men.
That was only one section.
That's only one beach.
Gotcha.
35,000 on Omaha Beach. 15,000 on airborne troops. In the British sector at the same time, the British sent in 25,000 on Gold Beach, 22,000 on June Beach, and 8,000 British and Canadian airbornes came in. The Canadian troops numbered 29,000 on Sword Beach. And then we had 177 Free French soldiers that were with us that made the invasion. Wow. Okay? So on D-Day, the Allied flew 15,000 sorties. We lost 127 planes at the time. Okay? Wow. Now, listen. By the end of the 11th of June, day 5 million troops. 5 million troops came in.
Damn.
A total of 5 million troops.
That's a lot of people.
54,186 vehicles came in.
Wow. 104,000
tons of supplies landed on the beaches.
Wow.
And these are all actual facts. No garbage.
At any point in time, did you experience any kind of shell shock, or just confusion, or just
well, yeah, when we were strafed.
Strafe meaning the bullet flew close to your head.
Yeah, strafe means that they would come in and shoot their machine guns at us.
Okay, got you.
Because don't forget, they knew where the hell we were.
Right.
Because of the planes that they lost when they flew over. If we shot down a plane, the rest of the planes continued on, right? So they knew where the hell we were.
I got you.
So either coming back or something else, they would kind of dive down.
Yeah, and go get you.
And strafe us.
Yeah.
That's the only time we lost men.
Wow.
But the strafing. But anyway, that's interesting. Of all the numbers, these are actual facts of numbers to do it. And I have it all in writing the same way. Wow. So the times, the beaches, this is where we took the training for where the U-boats came in.
June 6, 1944.
In England.
How long in total did you spend on the beach, or did the whole
when we landed
take? Yeah, how long are we talking about?
Days.
Days of nonstop gunfire.
Days of nonstop gunfire to keep going on and moving in. And the minute don't forget, we had the advantage. It's a whole different story about where Germany was and what Hitler wanted, where Rommel wanted to put certain things that Hitler wouldn't let him, because Hitler was the boss. Right. He divided everything so that nobody would have total control, like Eisenhower. Eisenhower was the boss. Right. What Eisenhower said, it worked. Okay? Now, Hitler had it all divided. I have books and books and books where Hitler divided each one with Rommel, with different generals. Okay? But he made the decision. Now, because he did not know where we were going to land, he had his troops spread all the way out. Now, once he knew where we were landing, then he started to transport his troops there. So between that time, we got a foothold. Okay. Once we got a foothold and we could bring our guns in, and once we could get landed, it was a different story again. Then we could defend ourselves and then start shooting, pushing them back as well.
Okay.
So everything they did, everything we did, we were pushing them back into Germany.
Right.
Do you remember where the first place you set up your guns? Was it actually on the beach?
On the beach.
Or was it
No, on the beach in St. Lo. On the beach as soon as the guns came in, because then we could fire at the other end of the beaches because of the 6 miles.
Right. How much experience did you have this time? We're talking a year, 2 years?
No.
Not even?
No. We trained in North Carolina and then shipped out, because then the invasion took place the same way. Look.
Are we bombed Japanese? Are we bombed by Japanese planes? Pearl Harbor?
Yep.
How do you say that? Ohu or Ahu?
Ahu.
What is Ahu?
No, Wahoo.
Wahoo
Island.
Wahoo Island. Is that where Pearl Harbor was?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Wahoo.
And this is, oh no, not this one. Where's that one we just had?
Right there behind you. So this is what happened, and we immediately got involved in the war after that.
Yeah. So this is.
And that's when you got drafted.
This is before I was drafted.
Right.
Hey, more relevant relevant. I just saw the back of this. This shows a perfect picture of the gun and them
how we lived.
Actually,
that's how we lived.
Getting in position to shoot.
Wow.
And that's in, I guess that's in what, France?
Yeah.
That picture back
Yep.
there? And then there is another one up top in the snow. Show that to the
Did you have you already had trenches and stuff dug where when you hear, because I assume the sound of planes would immediately make you kind of want to, would you run for shelter or would you run to the gun?
No, you had to run to the guns. The minute, because we got advance notice of the guns coming. Okay? Or we heard them, whatever the
You
hell
mean
it
planes.
was.
The planes coming.
Plane.
Yeah.
Then we would have to be on the guns.
Because I figured, because, you know, you said the planes would come in, they'd strafe you.
Strafe you.
And so I figured at that point, you know, you might want to duck and cover. Or
Well,
else
yeah,
you'd
you
get
had to
ripped
duck
in
and
half.
cover at that time.
Yeah, okay.
But before that, they were flying in formation.
And
They
that's
didn't know
when
where we were.
That's when you had the advantage.
So we had the advantage, and then we would be shooting. Don't forget, we got 16 of these guns shooting at them. So the radar would pick them up, basically, and track them into our area. Then we would be alerted,
And take care
and
of
we
it.
would do that.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Then we could fire our guns to do it.
So, you know, a couple months into the war, you end up on D-Day. And then how long after D-Day was Battle of the Bulge?
Oh, quite a way.
Quite a way.
Yeah,
'Cause
that
Battle
was
of-
December.
That was in
That
December?
was December.
All right. And D-Day was in
June.
June, okay. All right, so 6 months. And that's, with Battle of the Bulge, that's like a series of attacks the Germans launched, like surprise attacks to kind of flank you guys and get you off guard.
That was basically their last hold.
That was it.
That they thought basically they could conquer us because the snow, our planes couldn't fly. The weather was so bad.
Wow.
And the Germans had one theory, that we would be sick. The Americans, the Allies, would be sick or frozen to death or get killed.
Right.
Okay. Interesting story. We had to send my staff sergeant, my supply sergeant. We kept our dead men in a certain place. Now, we lived in the ground in the rain, in the snow, and everything else. Our boots were wet. They were rotting, basically. We sent my supply sergeant to our own dead men to take the boots and clothes off, our own dead soldiers, to bring it back to us because we couldn't get supplies in.
Right. Man.
We were cut off with supplies. They cut us off. They had us surrounded on 3 sides. We couldn't bring in supplies. Now, also, another interesting story. Have you ever heard of the, I got a mental block. The drivers would have to go to the port to get supplies. They took every truck away from us to send them back to Cherbourg, 250 miles, 300 miles away.
That's not good.
To bring in supplies.
Yeah.
Because everything had to be brought to us.
Right. That's a long journey.
Everything had to be brought to us.
You got to be vulnerable. That 300
So every
miles
driver, every truck and every driver had to go back.
Wow.
I was just saw this sitting over here on the table. It says the sands of the Utah beach. This is from
brought back to Utah Beach.
Wow.
That's actual sand.
Yeah. That's very cool.
He's amazing, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And see, this. We've had a lot of really great interviews and podcasts, but I mean, nothing has been quite as immersive as this experience has been so far. And it's been really, really, really awesome.
Yeah, going back. That's why I do this, interviewing these veterans. I want to make sure that all of the veterans get a chance and an opportunity to tell their story. He is telling the story of what he did. Everybody understands it. But there's other people. There's, like he said, the truck drivers. Everybody was a chink, you know.
Everybody was a link. There was a link.
And without one, the other ones couldn't function.
Couldn't do it.
So I've interviewed USO people, that were USO, you know, entertaining the troops. They had a job, and it was an important one. Cooks, drivers. You know, everybody wants to hear about the B-17 pilots. You know, the guy who went into the beaches. Everybody wants to hear about the guy who climbs up the wall, the Rangers. so many people out there, the guys, like you said, in the boats, in the back, that are part of why we won the war. And putting it all together is what I think the Library of Congress want to do. And he's part of that, putting that puzzle together, showing people exactly what they did.
This is how we lived in the Battle of the Bulge. Look at the top picture.
Oh, that is a picture from the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah, that's all snow right
top picture.
surrounding that gun.
Wow.
That's how we lived.
I don't do snow, so
You don't do snow.
no.
I don't do snow either, but
Yeah,
that's why I live in Florida.
pretty early.
I got a touch of frostbite that I carry till today. I take pills at night because I get cramps in my arms and my feet and my fingers cramp up.
I was going to ask you that. What are any other injuries or any other things that you've taken with you from the war that you had to carry around?
No. Basically, that's my only problem.
When you got back, you're well received. World War II is one of those wars.
Oh, yeah.
Since we had a clear-cut enemy, there wasn't really any debate.
It was terrible
on war.
about Vietnam and
Right.
the rest. They were
But you-
cursed at and said,
You came
but
home
we
to
were
nothing but
awarded
women. Yeah.
everything. We were. Well, don't forget, we were fighting for our country.
Right.
The rest of the wars were not fighting to save the United States.
Fighting for
Big-
politics.
Big difference.
That's very true.
Big
Very,
difference.
very true.
Big
that should be
difference.
the one true reason for war is to save the country.
Well, okay, either that or to do the right thing.
Yeah, that's true.
To do the right thing, basically. Because now with ISIS going on now, there's all the politics and everything else. So
There's a lot of
I have
weird
my
stuff
own
going
opinions
on.
of that, basically, because I'd like to bomb the shit out of them. Just drop a goddamn bomb on them and wipe them off the face of the earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What?
So,
Go for it, James.
I just wanted to know a little bit about post-war. I'm not trying to wrap anything up. I was just out of curiosity. You know, you go through, you see all these things, you do all these things. You had to experience some really bad stuff, and you have some. What sound like some not so terrible memories over there, like seeing your brother and such. When one big thing that we know now that I'm sure that that has always happened is with PTSD being such a big thing now, in so many different facets of our lives. Did you have to suffer with any of that? Do you know anybody that suffered with that, or how did you readjust back to civvy life after having to go through such a horrific war?
I adjusted very easily because I was so happy and so excited to be safe and sound and not wounded. Now, I'm very active today with veterans, with wounded veterans, with anything that I can do for a veteran today. I'm very active. With the track chairs, I work with hospice. I work with anybody or anything that I can to help a veteran. When I see a veteran without an arm or a leg or anything else, I just thank God every single day. That's the only thing that I can say to you is that I thank God every single day of my life that I'm well and able, and I'm a ballroom dancer.
Oh, wow.
So it keeps me active mentally and physically, and I'm very active. But I do a lot of work with veterans, and it tears my heart out to see a veteran without an arm or a leg. And I go to all the different organizations. I'm speaking at the Lady Lake Library on the 28th. I just spoke at a different organization in Orlando, and no charge, no nothing, and I take all of my stuff. I have a big car because of it, and I've been dragging this stuff around for 70 years, and I won't get rid of it yet.
Have you always been vocal?
Always been vocal, always. Always been vocal and always been on top of the game, because lest we forget, I don't want people to forget what it was and how lucky we are to be alive and well and live in the United States of America.
Yeah.
Because it could have very easily, had things not gone away, been.
Well, I'd
not the
have
United
been
States.
dead a long time ago. So
Me and you
didn't-
both. Me and you
Yeah,
would
yeah,
be dead
absolutely.
very quickly in this
yeah,
room.
yeah. We would,
James, maybe you could survive a little bit. Mike,
Well,
maybe. But no, me and
whatever
you
it
would
is,
just be dead.
like I say, but for the grace of God go I, and it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or Catholic or whatever it is. There's one God as far as I'm concerned, and all we got is today. We don't know if we're going to be alive tomorrow, so all we got is today. And you get into that battlefield, and all you got is today. Because one stray bullet puts you away, and one stray little thing puts you under the ground, and it's over. So I live every day because I live for today, and I get the most out of it, and I do the best I can and enjoy whatever I can today.
Right. What did you end up doing, like career-wise, after the war?
Career-wise, when I came out of the service, one of my brother, my oldest brother, was in the appliance business because at that time everything was rationed, you know. But he was in the appliance business, and I kept writing to him, look, start something. I want to go into business with you, and start something so we can go into business together. And when I came out, I went in, took a GI loan, and went in with him in the appliance business, and then we went in, started and made into the furniture business. But then I got an opportunity. You talk about one of the servicemen ran a press in our town, and they said to him, "Hey, Sam, we have to move the press from one here to there. Can you do it? Because to call in the big companies cost a fortune." Right. He said, "Well, I never move one, but I'll try it." Anyway, he moved it from there to there, and from that point on, he became very successful moving presses. But he needed somebody in the linotype. Linotype is something that sets all the type before it can go to the presses. Mm-hmm. At the time that I was there, it was hot type. They took lead. You ever see lead slugs?
Oh, yeah.
They melted lead and then printed the lead slugs on it and then put the lead slugs into a press. They called it linotype and put it in. Anyway, I got an opportunity to go to work for him. And very, very interesting of that. I left the furniture business and went to work with him. And because he said he needed a businessman, because he was not a businessman. But I couldn't touch the presses. I only did the linotypes that he wanted to build that end of it. So, very interesting story about how my mind runs and how I got along even in the service, you know. He had a guy with him that he paid $275 a week selling linotypes. So he got me for practically nothing to train me. And this guy was going to train me. So when he did that, he fired this other guy. He got me. And I said, "Who's going to train me?" He says, "Go to the printers. They'll train you. You go from one place to another. You'll learn very fast." But my thinking was altogether different than his. So it was used equipment. And very interesting story about that. When you come in as a salesman, you're interrupting somebody to try to sell them something. They kind of ignore you or push you off unless they're looking for something. So I developed a different story. I said, "What have you got that you're not using? What have you got in the garage or in your warehouse or in your shop that's costing you money that you're not using?" And I took a list of everything that they had that they weren't using. Then I went to auctions. And then if anybody called me, like this guy that he fired started his own business. He wanted me as a partner. I said, no partners for me. He said, "I need a mat roller, a certain piece of equipment." He said, "I'll give you $500 in cash if you find me this." I took a look at my list. I said, "You got it."
You're still the procurement man.
Yeah.
Right.
No way.
Till today. So basically, he gave me $500. I walked into the kitchen. I said to my wife, "We're in business for ourselves." I took my list and I started. Then I got in contact with a company, a big company that was competing with another company. And the other company was getting better trade-ins, giving bigger trade-ins when you want, like a car, you know. They were giving bigger ones. So I went to the owner or the president of the other company. I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll buy all the trade-ins on one condition, that you put it back in the factory, you rebuild it, put it back in a new box, and give me an exclusive on it to sell it." Because they didn't want their salesmen. They wanted their salesmen selling new, not used.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So I gave him this idea, and he did it, and I started a worldwide business.
Wow.
I started in that way because I sold it for 50% off of new. I had 11 people working in my basement, working for me. And you talk about Greg Wright, my guardian. His wife worked for me. She made $100,000 and never left the office working. You had to pay me up front to get the equipment.
So,
And then I went into Europe. Europe then is $220 instead of $110 for electricity. So I went to Europe, got them to give me the deal, had this factory change the electricity on it, and sold into Europe.
Oh, wow.
So it did very well.
So he comes to the village. I really want to get this part in. Tell him the story about going to D.C.
Oh, you mean with the seat? Well, I lived in New Jersey, and I used to come into Florida. So I used to stop in Washington, on the way. I didn't want to take somebody's seat away from them who never had the opportunity, to see Washington on the honor flight. So I pushed it off until the last minute, just last month that I first went on the honor flight.
Last month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was it moving?
Oh yeah, very moving because it was glamour. It was something where people clapped at the airport. I never had that.
Yeah.
Coming from New Jersey, being alone, a different story. But
didn't you say people get dressed up and like they treat it as if you're coming home from war?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
They really do it right.
That was the glamorous part of
That's
it. Every place we went, they clapped for us and they treated us very nice. And I tell you, they did a tremendous job. I think that when they asked me about it, I said it's like a well-oiled machine. Don't forget, you have all of these handicapped veterans that they have to take wheelchairs off the buses, moving from one place to another, taking them to the bathroom, different things.
Right.
Very, very difficult to do it, and they did a great job as far as I'm concerned anyway. I didn't have to be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So I would help them into the bathrooms and different veterans with it, But they did a tremendous job with it, and I'm grateful to them.
Where does your passion for veterans come from? Do you have
That's what I asked them the same way.
It seems like you really go out of your way to really promote, and you really enjoy it too, and is it out of curiosity like me?
No, my father was in the military for
Okay.
20 some odd years, retired, and I was born in Alaska. Although my family grew up in the Florida area,
Right.
I always like to tell everybody that my mom, Ann Harriet Parker, was Miss St. Augustine of 1950.
Wow.
So, so I was always around my father being in the military. And my job was, as a federal agent, I was with the Department of Defense Inspector General conducting fraud investigations, but over 20 some odd years.
Okay.
And my daughter followed up, and she, just a couple years ago, Cindy.
I'm glad you brought her up because I want to talk to you about her.
Yeah. She's something. She's a flight test engineer she's a Gator, University of Florida, and she's works for the U.S. Army as a flight test engineer for the Apache and the Black Hawk, and just to a year and a half ago now, it's been a while now, she graduated from the Navy Test Pilot School, which is the number one top notch. Yeah, if there's one class above Top Gun, and that's the Navy Test Pilot School.
Really?
Oh, wow.
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 The guys from Top Gun, once they're finished Top Gun, and they're the guys, the one school that they want to go to is the Navy Test Pilot School in Tucson. And Cindy went there and went through that. So she's military. She
Army civilian.
Army
right?
civilian.
Yeah.
So that military is still around with me. And being in the villages, if you've ever been to the villages or you come to see the villages, you have to go to the Eisenhower Center, and you'll see the military environment that we live in the villages. It's guys.
I
like
love
Mr.
that place.
Locker.
I love that place.
It's just I have it. I have it around me, and so when the honor flight thing started, I thought, some of the things we've all done things in our life that we're not very proud of, and so if we believe in God and we believe that we're going to go up into heaven, I think that what I'm doing now, I might have some of my World War II buddies that are there that might get me in.
Yeah.
If I need a couple extra points, they'll be there at the gate saying, let him in. So, but no, I enjoy, as you see, doing what you're doing now. And again, first thing I should have said to you both, James and Mike, thank you very much for having us here.
Yes,
And,
me too. I
it
should
was-
have said that.
Oh,
What
it was
you
our honor.
What you guys do is just promoting what I want people to know is that get out there, help your veterans. 2, if you're interested in helping veterans, look at your local honor flight. It is one of the things in life, if you've never done anything that you feel like there's something empty, be a guardian for a veteran on honor flight. Mr. Locker mentioned a guy by the name of Greg. In the villages, we assign each veteran a guardian, and that guardian becomes your buddy, your pal,
and women as well as men,
yes.
Guardians.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, and we have women veterans.
Yeah.
So do that. A day of being a guardian on honor flight is, you cannot explain the emotion, the character of being around these guys. Honor. Yeah. Being with them.
And how can you do this?
First of all, all you got to do is get on the internet and go to honorflight.org. The villages has their own. You can get it on the internet. Google it. You could call me. I mean, if you need some additional help, you can always call Mike Parker. I'll give you my phone number. It's 954-600-2709. If you want anything information about Honor Flight, or if you want to know anything about the Library of Congress, the University of Florida veteran project that we're interviewing these World War II veterans, you can call Ann Smith. She's at the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program. You can look that up on Google. Ann Smith at the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program at the University of Florida. And the reason I'm giving you Ann is because you might get calls from God knows where.
Right.
What I do is just World War II veterans here in Florida. So people hearing this out in Denver might want to say, well, Mike's here in the villages in Florida. I can't do anything. Branch. But yes, you can. The village, the honor flight is nationwide. There's places. And to do what I do, interview these World War II veterans, anybody can do it. Anybody. You just need to follow the instructions. Ann Smith can help you get involved, and I can help you get involved.
Samuel Proctor Oral History Project.
Program.
But I definitely want to piggyback on that, because, like we were saying earlier, you're running a battle against time, and you can use all the assistance you can. So I'd really, really, really appreciate it. If this is something of interest to you, just imagine the conversation we just had with Mr. Locker. I'd have that any day of the week. I just got to not only grace my eyes, but actually touch like history. I really I'm a big believer of energy. Everything objects, you can they carry a certain energy with it, and it's like seeing this Nazi flag and just knowing the history of it. When you were holding it up, man, I was getting goosebumps. My neck, like I could just feel the hair on my neck standing up, and it's like you get to share these moments. I'll never forget this. I'm a big history fan. I've always, in school, I've always excelled in history, and I've always paid special attention to World War II. And it's like this little taste of the past that you just blessed me with. I mean, it's something that I'm not going to forget. Matter of fact, I probably won't shut up about this for a long time. Like everyone,
I agree, 100%.
I'm gonna say, listen, I held a German Luger. I saw a Nazi dagger. Get this. I touched a Nazi flag. You know what I mean? I get to tell people that.
Yeah.
I'm going to share that for the rest of my life.
Well, do you get to the villages at all?
Oh, I work in the villages.
Well, then you come to my home, and I'll show you the rest of the stuff that I couldn't bring here. With the shell, we created an actual, real live shell.
Yeah.
And I'll show you a lot more that I couldn't bring in the car. But I'll show you a lot more that I brought home.
I tell you what, if the people at the Eisenhower Rec Center are listening to this, they're going to be so jealous. Because
well,
they don't have anything.
They have nothing in German.
Nothing
from Germany.
The coolest thing they have are the old letters from the 1940s.
They've got a flag, or they've got
like
something
that.
from Japan.
And pictures and whatnot.
But nothing.
But this is the real. Yeah. This is something only a soldier can provide.
That's
you.
all.
And you just happen to be there. You're part of history. That's why, like when you were telling me what you did after the war, in the back of my head, I'm giggling because it's like. You just took part in two major events in history, between D-Day and Battle of Bulge. You directly had an impact in the history books. And then it's like you just go, and you're in your 20s, by the way. Did I not mention that? And then you get out and you live your normal life. You live the rest of your life, and you live a successful, absolutely normal life. And it's so funny. Like, I could walk past you on the street and never know your story.
No.
And I'm so glad that we have an opportunity to put your story out there so other people can listen to it. And that even ties back into the Oral History Project, because there's so many other people just like you that have this story, and it's like, unless, how often can you sit down and hijack someone's attention in their ear for an hour and share your life experiences and someone cherish it? I mean, I was on the edge of my seat for every word that you were saying, and I'm so glad we have an opportunity to put that out there, and years and years and years from now, when we're all long gone, someone can pop that on and listen to it.
Well, I am too, and I thank you both, and Mike as well, for bringing me to this place and letting me do it, because lest we forget, and that's my big thing, is I don't want people to forget what we went through and how lucky we are that we still have the United States and how we're living today because of it.
One of the questions people ask me is, where do you find all these veterans? And it's through the honor flight. The honor flight, to get on an honor flight, you have to put on an application. And on the application, it will say, a little tiny thing, blurb, says, what did you do in the war? And so I'll go through the applications, and see if there's, the age. He's 91 years old, guys. 91. And I think he could probably out-talk us. Yeah. We probably have to go take a nap, before he stops. But perfect example, I came across an application, and he says he's a Tuskegee Airman here near the villages. His name was Lieutenant Daniel Keel. Here's his book. Got a picture of him.
And if you don't know anything about history, the Tuskegee Airmen were they're all black.
All black and airmen.
What would you call them? A flight crew or a
pilots?
Division? Pilots. They were all black.
Well, there were pilots. There were
they were all connected, but the main thing was the pilots.
The crews. The pilots what made them famous.
Pilots what made them
but
famous.
They were crew. They were Tuskegee Airmen were also crew members. Also,
okay.
So you can't keep them off the picture too. So Daniel Keel lived here, and when I saw that he was the Tuskegee Airman, I called him up and I told him who I was with the honor flight and would I mind coming over. And he says, "Yeah, sure, come on over." And the thing about Daniel Keel, who is 93, I think he's 93 years old. He's like Mr. Locker. He could sit up here and talk to you all day long. And I thought I'd have to give him a treat. So I brought him up to Bellevue, to where the 91-year-old pilot kept his basic trainer 13, which Mr. Keel flew and learned how to fly in when he went in the military back in 1941. He gets in the plane with a pilot. He goes up. We have the GoPro on him, and he lets him have the airplane. He had not flown an airplane for like 70 years.
God.
I swear, when you look at him, there's nothing on his face, no facial expression. He takes it over, looks over to the left, pulls it over, flies over, lifts to the right, just looks her over, and like it was no big deal at all. And when I asked him afterwards, and he goes, I just felt like it was yesterday when I was up in one of those airplanes. 93 years old. So I throw these stories out just so the audience can understand it is worth getting involved, because we have so little time.
Right.
And who would have imagined there was someone like him 10, 15 miles from my house?
Yeah.
Someone like Mr. Locker.
Mind blowing.
1 mile from my house. I would never have known that without getting involved. And so you know what? You go to bed smiling.
Yeah. No, for sure.
You know what? You had a good day when you interview one of these guys.
Yeah, you just got to dip your finger in a little bit of history,
Yeah.
Well, I'm in a lot of magazines, but this is the stuff I have at the house. All of the displays that you see here.
Okay. Ooh. And that's the helmet, the 3-pound helmet there in the bottom corner there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got German helmets there, too. I got German helmets. That's a German helmet.
That's a German helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you ever people out there want talk to Mr. Locker or have him come on over,
Yeah.
believe me, he will come out to your house. He'll come out to whatever organization and talk to you. He wants you. He wants you to call him.
Right.
He's just that type of guy. He's a hero. I know you don't say that, but
No,
we do.
I don't say it.
You are a hero to our country.
Well, I thank you for that. And one more thing that, the big thing is that I was there. That's the big thing, that when they advertise, it's just because so many people will, say, well, I interviewed this veteran and that veteran and this veteran, and this is the stories they tell me. But when I go there, I was there.
Yeah.
So I talk about it to that point. So that's how they advertise me, that I was there and do it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Well, I guess let's wrap this thing up.
I don't know. I don't even know of a better place to wrap. To wrap it up. I mean, it's been quite a journey. It's been amazing. Thank you all so much for coming in. Thank you for the history that you've given us. Thank you for the information you've given us, so that we have access to more history that we can experience and share and record and preserve. I am ecstatic about
we got a
this
chance
today.
to do this. And once again, people, once we get done, I'm going to snap some pictures. Actually, James already snapped some. We'll probably
A
take
couple of
some
my
more.
phone's dead now.
And we'll get that up on Twitter. What's our Twitter address? Podcast_TT.
Podcast_TT.
Is it the other way around? TT underscore. I don't know.
I think it's podcast_TT.
Find it. People.
You're the podcast. Or you're the Twitter guy.
Yeah, just find us on Twitter.
You can also find us on Facebook. I will put all the photos on Facebook, and that is Transient Thoughts Podcast on Facebook. Please go over there, like our page, share it. You can find this podcast along with all of our other podcasts at transientthoughtpodcast.libsyn.com, or head on over to iTunes, download this, share it. Please rate, comment, and leave us your questions and comments. You can also email us at transientthoughtspodcast@gmail.com.
One last thing. The Veterans History Program, if they want to know anything about the Library of Congress.
Yes.
Veterans History
Check it out.
program. Go on there, check it out. Over 50,000 interviews of World War II veterans.
Wow.
God damn.
All right, we're trying to capture as many as we can.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate your time.
Love you guys.
See you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Transient Thoughts. Please head on over to iTunes to rate and comment on our show. Also add us on Facebook and Twitter to find out when we'll be live on Mixler again. See you next time here on Transient Thoughts Podcast.